Hi, Mayor Robert Schaefer here. Due to the coronavirus, the City of Summersville is happy to bring interviews of candidates for our upcoming election. A couple important things to note. Primary Election Day has been moved to June 9th. Our County Clerk, Bobby Painter, along with your Secretary of State, Mac Warner, both highly encourage all voters to vote absentee this year. To facilitate your doing so, every voter will be mailed a postcard, which is your absentee ballot application. Simply fill the card out, return it to the courthouse, and you will be mailed your ballot. In the event you decide not to vote absentee, at a later date, voting dates and times will be announced. All precincts will be open on Election Day. A special thanks to Jason Eads for organizing this opportunity on behalf of the City of Summersville. Thank you to Mary Ann Taylor for doing the interviews, and Barney Benito, our videographer and manager of Summersville TV station. On behalf of the city, I encourage all to continue to adhere to the guidelines that have been issued and ordered by our Governor, Jim Justice. With the stay-at-home order still in effect, I encourage and remind you to wash your hands regularly, 20 seconds at a time. Cover your mouth and nose when coughing or sneezing. Avoid close contact with anyone. 6 feet is the acceptable distance for social distancing. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or your mouth. All involved in our interview process have been screened, as well as following all other guidelines.
Thank you for joining us today. These are difficult and unusual times in our country and the world around us. With the COVID-19 pandemic, we are navigating in uncharted waters. As citizens of this great nation, we must stick together and follow the necessary precautions to overcome this disease. We are grateful to all of our healthcare providers, our first responders, and all those providing essential services. And to the leaders of our country and state government, thank you for your guidance and updates as we fight this war against the coronavirus. As West Virginians prepare to vote on June the 9th, we will not have the pleasure of a visit from a candidate or an invitation to a Meet the Candidate night. We must find different ways to meet the candidates, to understand their platforms, and to gather the information needed to exercise our right to vote. To help the citizens of Nicholas County meet the candidates without gathering, the City of Summersville and SCTV invite all of you to sit in your living rooms and watch and listen to a conversation with a candidate. I'm Mary Ann Taylor, Executive Director of the Summersville Arena and Conference Center, and it is my pleasure to participate in the interview process of these candidates. Candidates were sent an invitation to participate in conversation with a candidate. If they chose to participate, an interview was scheduled, and they also completed a wellness screening in accordance to the precautionary criteria for COVID-19. These interviews are being filmed over a 3-day period. Candidates for West Virginia Senate District 11 include Democrat Denise Campbell, Republican Robert Carnes, and incumbent Republican J.R. Pittsenbarger. District 11 covers Nicholas, Pendleton, Pocahontas, Randolph, Upshur, and Webster counties, as well as some of southern Grant County. There are 2 senators for this district with a staggering 4-year term. Currently, Republican Bill Hamilton fills one of the seats for Senate District 11, and the citizens of the previous mentioned counties will vote on June 9th for each party's candidate to vie for the open seat in the November election. So with me now is candidate Robert Carnes. So thank you for participating in conversation with a candidate.
Well, thank you.
And you may begin your opening statement.
Sure. Well, I would like to start off by saying that these are obviously not normal times. We have the virus running around. We've even moved our primary. I hope everyone is staying safe out there. I think we have to keep in mind that we have particular populations that are vulnerable to this virus more so than everyone else. I think that it's important that we use basic hygiene, the social distancing measures and things, really things that we ought to be doing perhaps more often than we do. But I do hope that everyone is staying safe, and appreciate Summersville putting this on so that we have an opportunity, since we are somewhat limited in talking to voters this time around. In 2014, I was elected as part of the Republican Revolution that happened in West Virginia. For the first time in 84 years, Republicans took control of the House and the Senate in West Virginia. And I think what had happened was we had finally reached such an economic low, and our education system had reached such a low in terms of performance, that the voters of West Virginia decided it was time for a change. I was very privileged to be a part of that change early on. And I'm looking to help continue the changes that we brought about. We've already done an awful lot of reforms related to our legal system, to our regulatory environment. We still need to do a lot of work on our tax system because it's very business unfriendly. We have more work to do on our education system, and I hope to be a part of that in the future, and I hope to have your support. Thank you.
All right, now for your first question. Why do you want this job, and what qualifications do you bring to this position?
Sure. So the situation that West Virginia finds itself in is that we have made a transition from one particular party being the majority party, and from that particular party really they simply did not do a particularly good job. And we know that not based on some type of partisan view, but simply because West Virginia's economy has always rated very near the bottom. Our education system is rated near the bottom. And so there's no question that we need changes. And we've already started those changes since 2014, whenever I was originally elected to the state Senate. And we also know that there need to be more changes. Now, I'm a father, I have 8 children, and I originally got into this political game not because there's anything in it for me, but because for my kids and for West Virginia's kids, we have to change what West Virginia looks like. And we've started that process, but there's much more to do, and I want to be a part of making that happen.
Okay. If elected, what are your 3 biggest priorities for next year?
I think that the number one thing that we've not yet done is tax reform. We have a tax code that is very business unfriendly, and when businesses don't feel comfortable coming to West Virginia, that means they don't feel comfortable bringing jobs to West Virginia. And so historically, we've always underperformed the nation in job creation. But with that one final piece, we can make some progress, and I think real big progress in terms of improving West Virginia's economic environment. I think our education system has started to see some movement, but we've got a lot more to do there. We need to make sure that our local school boards are in control of our school systems. We need to make sure that our teachers are in charge of our classrooms. I think the teachers do offer the best hope for how West Virginia's kids can be best served by an education system. So we've got those 3 pieces there. I also think that we've just got a wide variety, whether it's trying to encourage more tourism, whether it's trying to make sure that our seniors are taken care of, that it's kind of difficult to pick a third item. But I think that what we need to do is continue with the things that West Virginia has done well historically. We do have very strong communities. It's actually one of the reasons why I think we're going to do well with the coronavirus issue that we currently have. Those are the things that I really intend to focus on.
Okay. Next question. Do you see the passage of the medical marijuana bill as a positive step in the fight against the opioid addiction?
I didn't really see the medical marijuana bill as particularly one way or the other as it related to the fight in opioid addiction. I did support the medical marijuana bill. It was probably one of the more difficult votes I ever made because it's not something that I typically would have supported, but I saw enough evidence to indicate that for some people it offers some hope, completely aside from anything to do with the opioid crisis. I don't know that it'll have much of an effect one way or the other on that, but there are people that do seem to benefit from the use of medical marijuana, and so I did support it.
Do you support the legalization of recreational marijuana, and why or why not?
I wouldn't support it. The idea that is often pushed by the pro-legalization movement is that it's going to be a huge boon to our state's tax revenues. They point to states like Colorado and they show particular numbers out there. I don't think we would see anything like those numbers here in West Virginia, but I also have concerns when we, as a state or as a community, decide to tax certain things with the idea of having them be revenue enhancers. Because, for example, when we tax cigarettes as heavily as we do, and we put that money into the general fund, then it's not being used to get people to stop smoking. If it were more dedicated to getting people to stop smoking, I would be more supportive of those taxes. But instead, we wind up with a tax structure where the last thing the state of West Virginia wants is for people to stop smoking because it would hurt our budget too much. I don't think we want recreational marijuana to be something that the state of West Virginia becomes concerned when usage declines. And I'm afraid that if we looked at it as a revenue tool, that's exactly what would happen. We would suddenly see marijuana, same with gambling, for example. We get a lot of money out of gambling, and then we act like we're concerned as a state when people lose everything they have because of a gambling addiction, but we don't really want them to stop gambling either. So I don't think we want it to be a revenue generator, and that's my biggest concern with the proposals that I've seen related to it. At the same time, we have to recognize that just locking people up associated with marijuana isn't curing the problem. So we do need to look at how can we address this issue. I don't have any definite answer other than I don't want to see it be something that the state begins to rely on the revenue stream.
Next question. What would you like to see the state government do to help the citizens of West Virginia to recover once the restrictions are lifted from the coronavirus?
This actually is I think, a very important question. Probably so far the most important one you've asked. And the reason for that is that West Virginia typically is always the first into recession. When the rest of the country is headed toward recession, West Virginia arrives there first. And when the rest of the country pulls out of a recession, West Virginia comes out of it last. That's been our history in most cases. Right now we actually have some pretty good opportunities related to this, even as bad as this virus is, which is that if we can get this right now, and I don't mean today because obviously we won't even be in session until January of next year, but this problem's not going to go away entirely before then. If we do that tax reform, if we make West Virginia even more business friendly, maybe for the first time we can be one of the leaders of the pack coming out of this recession. So we do need tax reform still, we do need regulatory reform still, and that's something that the state can do to put the right systems in place so that when this is clear, West Virginia is ready to spring out of this in a way that we have never been able to do in the past.
And the last question. What policy changes or investments are necessary to encourage broader employment within West Virginia, particularly in Nicholas County?
Sure. Broader in West Virginia, we've already spoken of it to some degree. We still need more regulatory reform. There was a bill that passed out of the Senate this past session, for example, that was going to try to clarify who's a contractor versus who's an employee. This is a critical issue for small businesses and small contractors because if you get it wrong, there's massive tax penalties associated with having it wrong. So we still have those regulatory issues that we need to deal with. That's just one example. We also still have the tax reform that we need to do. We have the highest personal income tax in our region. We have the highest corporate net income tax in our region. And the idea that businesses don't care about taxes obviously is not really a serious idea. So we need to focus on the things that are obstacles to bringing business to West Virginia, and those are some of them still: the regulatory reform and the tax reform, particularly to Summersville, to Nicholas County, to this area. You know, a lot of folks want to write off the timber industry at one point, or the coal industry at one point, and in this area, tourism obviously is a big deal. I'm not ready to write off either of the other two industries. I think they're still very much a viable part of West Virginia and this part of West Virginia. I also think that we can do more to draw tourism into West Virginia. I have supported some of the efforts, for example, to market West Virginia a little bit better, a little bit more effectively. So, you know, in the Summersville area, we have a lake here. We have, you know, a lot of natural beauty. We've got Richwood out there that has so much history associated with it. As a kid, I used to come through Richwood. We would stop there every time on our way over to something in either Pocahontas County or Randolph County and so on. So much history here, so much natural beauty here that the tourism is obviously a big player in that as well. But we have to keep in mind that if it's good for West Virginia, it's going to be good for Summersville.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. That ends the question and answer session, and you will now have 3 minutes for your closing statement.
Well, thank you. In the upcoming primary, you're going to have a choice between myself and Senator Pittsenbarger. Senator Pittsenbarger was appointed to the seat last year. At this point in time, it's really kind of too new to see exactly how he's going to hit his feet. But I do have a record, and I have a very strong pro-business record, a very strong pro-job record. I've pushed for education reform. One of the things that is going to always be true in politics is if you do nothing, you can stay popular very easily. But if you do anything that's worth doing, you're going to be controversial, and I'm probably one of the more controversial people on the ballot this year because I refuse to do nothing. I will always work to make West Virginia's job environment better. I will always work to make our school system better. I will always work, because of my own family and my 8 children, to make sure that West Virginia offers the opportunities for my kids and your kids in the future, your grandkids and so on. In this particular election, on some of the issues, I've been endorsed by West Virginians for Life. I've got an A+ rating from the NRA. I've got a 100% rating from the National Small Business, the NFIB. So I've got a proven record. Sometimes it's been controversial because I'm not willing to sit on my hands. I'm running against someone who has no record because sit on his hands is so far what he's done. And so I'm asking for your support for 4 more years because we can't leave West Virginia where we are. We have to continue to push ahead and improve this state for ourselves, for our children, for our grandchildren. And I'm asking you for your vote on June 9th. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is candidate Robert Carnes, candidate for West Virginia Senate, District 11. Thank you very much for being with us today, and best of luck with your campaign.
Well, thank you.
Our next candidate for the West Virginia Senate, District 11, is Republican incumbent John Pittsenbarger. So thank you for being with us today, and you may begin your opening statement.
Thank you, Mary Ann, and I would also like to take a moment and thank SCTV for this opportunity. I am a lifelong resident of Nicholas County, and many of your viewers might know me as JR from my many years on radio. And also, I was appointed to this Senate seat last fall and was able to serve 1 term in the Senate this past session and really enjoyed helping the citizens of West Virginia. I'm also a graduate of Glenville State College. I'm a Christian, and I continue to operate our family farm here in Nicholas County with my family, and we raise cattle and hay. So that's a little bit about me. And I am dedicated to each and every citizen in the 11th Senatorial District. You may contact me if you need any information during this crisis, and we will do our best to help you through our channels here in the state of West Virginia.
Okay, thank you very much for that. We will now begin our question and answer session.
Okay.
And your first question, why do you want this job and what qualifications do you bring to this position?
This has been a lifelong goal of mine, and I have always hoped to be in politics someday. It seems like the roads I've taken in my life with the blessings of the Lord has brought me to this point. I want this to be able to help West Virginia citizens. I want to work hard to create jobs. I want to work hard to help the citizens to get through this COVID-19 problem that we are all facing right now. I also want to help tourism and increase each and every dollar that will come into the state as we move out of this COVID-19 to help our economy. I would also like to develop our timber and natural resources industry very responsibly. I would like to increase agriculture production throughout our region and state of West Virginia because that will also create jobs for many citizens. And as a freshman senator, I was honored to be placed as vice chair on the natural resources, on the agriculture committee, and was able to help many folks through that position also.
Okay, thank you. Next question. If elected, what are your 3 biggest priorities for next year?
With this particular situation that we are under right now, I had thought about that a lot. And we really need to prepare the state of West Virginia for future emergencies. We need to work hard to establish inventories for medical supplies when they're needed. I know we can't know all situations as they come before us, but in the past we also had a flooding issue, as you remember, about 3 or 4 years ago. And I also had the privilege of being placed on the interim committee for flooding and learned a lot there. And with my experience on the conservation district here in the area, we worked hard to fix streams and help folks after the flooding issues. So what I would like to do, my number 1 priority, is set up a better system here in our state of West Virginia to help folks in times of disaster. You mentioned 3. My other one is the opioid crisis. I know that's been out of the news some here lately, but this is a very serious issue. We need to work very hard to help those who have been addicted to these opioids and drugs. We need to be able to have more facilities to retrain as they come out of these. We need to help them in the job market. We need to have the jobs out there that they need when they get out of the opioid crisis. Those that keep falling back in, we need a better recovery program to help them, to show them that they need to drop that. My 3rd one is infrastructure. That's something that West Virginia needs really bad. We need to work on our bridges. We need to work on our roads. And not only that, we need to help, because our 11th senatorial district is very rural, we need to improve our water supplies for each and every community out there. A lot of that is aging and needs a lot of work. We also, in that realm of infrastructure, need to have better internet, and our broadband really needs improved, because as we move forward into this century, broadband and our infrastructure is what will help create jobs for West Virginia.
Thank you for that. Next question. Do you see the passage of the medical marijuana bill as a positive step in the fight against the opioid addiction?
I don't believe, as you pose the question, it might be a positive step for the opioid addiction, but medical marijuana does help many people in many different ways. And as it is regulated in the correct way, it will help many people possibly get on the right track, as long as the addiction does not come with that. And also that will help our industry, as I mentioned earlier, our farming industry, because those farmers out there that are producing medical marijuana, it will help their bottom line. So I believe it can help in the long run.
Okay, next question. Do you support the legalization of recreational marijuana? Why or why not?
I do not at this point. I have seen some of the issues that have came from Colorado that has went along with the legalization of that. Possibly in the future it could, as we first look at the medical marijuana, but at this point I do not.
Okay, thank you. Next question. What would you like to see the state government do to help the citizens of West Virginia to recover once the restrictions are lifted from the coronavirus?
That is a very good question, and I think I alluded to that just a moment ago in my three things that I would like to accomplish in the upcoming year. First of all, I would say I would like to see the government have stockpiles of emergency supplies. I know we can't prepare for every issue, like I mentioned earlier, but we can prepare. We can have the PPEs. We can have things that these medical professionals need. We need to have our food supply, which is in no problems at this point, but we need to make sure that it continues to run safely. The Department of Agriculture here in West Virginia is very important to that. As senators, we can have in our interim committees and look at ways to help in the future. Another thing would be possibly have, I know our finances in the state are really sad, and with this situation it's going to be a lot worse, but we also need to look at having financial assistance for many people out there during these times and future times.
Okay, thank you. And the last question.
Yes.
What policy changes or investments are necessary to encourage broader employment within West Virginia, particularly in Nicholas County?
Okay. The policy changes will not only come from the state legislature, it will come from the county also. We need to be more open to new businesses, whatever they might be. We need to have a tax structure that will help these businesses get started, because without a great tax base here in the state, we won't be able to move forward as we would like to here in West Virginia. Other things that come along with the question you ask is cooperation. In this past legislative session, I think there was some miscommunication on a couple bills that wasn't understood on everybody at all levels. So in the future, I would like to be able to get a good communication through the elected officials so that everybody knows what is coming from all levels. And as we prepare the agenda for the new year, these things develop through discussion in Charleston. And lots of times the ideas come from all of us sitting down and getting together. So discussion is one of the biggest things that I would say will help in Charleston and local here in Nicholas County to help. As I mentioned too, and you with the CVB know how important tourism is. We need to develop our lake more. We need to develop our walking trails and other things here in the county that will bring our tourists into the area too, because that will not only help tourism itself proper, but it helps the motels, it helps the restaurants, it helps the food industry. And I know everybody's hurting right now, so that's where we're at in the situation in West Virginia at this point. So now's the time to sit down and just have these discussions.
Okay, thank you very much, and that ends our question and answer session. So you will now have 3 minutes for your closing statement.
All right, thank you very much. In my closing statement, I would like to let the citizens of West Virginia, and especially the 11th Senatorial District, know that I'm here to work hard for each and every one of you. With your help and with your giving me the opportunity coming up in the election that has been delayed, as you know, and those of you who will absentee vote, please do that. Be sure to vote. Don't go out there and vote, whether it is through the mail, absentee, or if you do wait and decide to wait to go into the polling places in June, be sure to do that. That's the most important thing you can do, because with your choice and with your dedication and decisions is how West Virginia will be shaped over the next 4 years as we continue to have worked very hard in the state legislature and our executives here in the state to get through this corona situation. We need your help. So any issues you have, please contact me. May I give my contact information?
Yes, you may.
You can contact me through an email if you would like to do that. It is Pittsenbarger, the number 4, Senate 2020 at yahoo.com. Pittsenbarger for Senate 2020 at yahoo.com. Or my personal cell phone that I'm sharing, you may text or call, is 304-651-4622. As we build West Virginia's future, we will work together. And remember, with integrity, we can move forward. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Again, candidate John Pittsenbarger, the incumbent Republican candidate for West Virginia Senate, District 11. Thank you again for being with us
today.
today.
Thank you, Mary Ann. I greatly appreciate it.
Best of luck on your campaign.
Thank you.
Our final candidate for the West Virginia Senate, District 11, is Democrat Denise Campbell. So welcome, Denise, and you may begin your opening statement.
All right, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the City of Summersville for providing this opportunity for us to be able to get to know each other with this COVID virus. I know things are a little bit different, but I really do appreciate the opportunity. Like she said, my name is Denise Campbell. I live in Elkins, West Virginia. I am a candidate for the 11th Senatorial District of West Virginia. I am married to Rick Campbell, and I have 2 sons, Lance and Logan. My oldest son, Lance, is in law school in Brooklyn, New York. So you can imagine some of the challenges that many of us are facing with having families that are out of state, especially when this pandemic is going on. But just wanted to tell you a little bit about myself. I've worked in healthcare for over 30 years. I currently teach at Alderson Broaddus University as a professor in nursing. I have been a nurse for 27 years. I have worked in the hospital setting, outpatient setting, and recently received my doctorate in nursing practice with a focus on healthcare policy. I attended the schools in Elkins, West Virginia, attended Davidson Elkins College in Elkins. My husband and I and my son Logan are very active in our communities. My youngest son Logan is a special needs child who has autism, and we are very strong advocates for individuals with disabilities and advocate very strongly for those that are not as fortunate as others and want to try to make a difference in the lives of West Virginians.
Well, thank you very much for that statement, and we will begin the question and answer session with the first question. Why do you want this job, and what qualifications do you bring to this position?
The reason why I want this job, and this is a job, you work for the people of West Virginia. The reason why I want this job is because I have a passion to make a difference in the lives of others. I feel that we need someone who will listen to the people and who will work for the people as their priority, not what the party is or what the party leadership feels that everyone should follow along to. I served previously in the House of Delegates for 6 years, and I was always one of those members that nobody knew what Denise was going to do, because what Denise has done is I listen to the people and I vote accordingly to what I hear from the people. I will not shy away from someone who has a different opinion than what I have. And I really want to see the people of West Virginia to have a better way of life. We have had challenges for many years. My father, his father was a coal miner, was hurt in the mines. My dad had to leave West Virginia to find work. My oldest son has left West Virginia. I want to be sure that we have opportunities so that our families can stay in West Virginia. As serving in the House of Delegates for 6 years, I have got to know many leaders in the state and actually have worked across the aisle. Not say that I will, but actually do. And you can tell that if anyone would want to look up my voting record that they can see that I am just not a one-line, one-party vote, whatever someone tells me to do. I vote what the people tell me to do. I don't have to have someone beside my side to tell me what to do, and I am not afraid to stand up when I feel that something is not right for the district that I represent. And I feel that I can do a good job, and I want to make a difference, and I want us to stop the arguing, fussing, and fighting, calling names. We need to be professionals. We need to set the example for our children, and we need to set the example for the working people of West Virginia. That's why I want to be the senator of the 11th Senatorial District.
Okay, thank you. Next question. If elected, what are your 3 biggest priorities for next year?
Well, as we all know, we're in the midst of a very trying time related to the COVID-19 virus. As a healthcare worker, and as a nurse, as a mother, as a professor, we are going to have to see where we are in the midst of this virus here in our country and in our state. We don't know where we will be on that trend of in January. I really hope, I think we all hope and pray that it's over with, but we know some of the effects of the COVID-19 are going to be issues that we're going to have to attack the very first thing in January. We know that our small businesses, of course, have hurt greatly. We know that West Virginia, that's what we are, small businesses. And one of the priorities is, what is it that we need to do to help West Virginia get back on track to be able to take care of our families, be able to go back to work, but being sure that our people are healthy and that we have taken care of those immediate health care needs first. After that, and I think that's going to be a big challenge because nobody knows what January holds, but I think being informed and knowing what's going on is very important. Number 2, I think, and foremost, having health insurance and solving the issue with PEIA is still out there. And we have to make some tough decisions to be able to be sure that the state workers here in West Virginia have health care coverage, and it's something that is affordable for them and for all of West Virginia. Now we all know right now our priority is I want to be safe, I want my family safe, I want my community safe. And if any of us would come in contact with that virus and would actually get that, knowing that we have health insurance and knowing that we have community hospitals that are still here that can take care of us. And I am a very strong advocate for making sure that our community hospitals are supported and our local health departments. We have very much so underfunded public health. You can look at it at the national level, you can look at it at the state level. And now we see how important public health is, and they are the ones that are out there collecting the data. They're the ones that are out there being sure that we're doing what we should do to keep ourselves healthy and our community healthy. Another thing that I would look towards is that, our children in West Virginia, our focus right now, of course, we want to be sure that they have a good education, but it is so sad and heartbreaking to see that right now our primary focus is being sure that they have food. To be a state that we have to worry about are our children being fed, that's a sad place to be, but that's across West Virginia and across America. And I think we really need to look at our children, look at what they face, the mental health situations, the abuse settings, those that are in foster care, those that are homeless. Those are things that we need to attack. And if we attack those, we will make West Virginia stronger.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Do you see the passage of the medical marijuana bill as a positive step in the fight against the opioid addiction?
As a nurse, I've actually given patients medication that basically was marijuana. A lot of times marijuana is used for appetite stimulant. And I can see where, especially with us passing the medical use of marijuana, I think, is the very first step, and I think it's a step that we should have done a long time ago. I know that there are different studies, depending on which way you want to look at an issue. There's different studies that may show you that cigarette smoking and marijuana use is sort of the gateway, possibly, to use of other substances. But as we can see in other states, they have been successful. And I think that's a revenue that West Virginia should look at and see that that is something that maybe our state could use that as a revenue source, plus at the same time not seeing so many people put in prison due to drug addiction and drug use. One of my part-time jobs, I teach at Huttonsville Correctional Center for Glenville State College, and I have had many conversations with many of the inmates there, and many of them are there because of drug use. So I think marijuana, as I know there are some people who have a different view about that, but I think we have to do something to help stop putting everyone in prison, and we have to do something to promote some revenue in West Virginia.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Do you support the legalization of recreational marijuana? Why or why not?
That's a tough one. That is a tough one. I myself have never used any marijuana or anything like that. I right now would like to see us work on being sure that we have policies in place that work as it relates to using for medical use, and be sure that we have that down pat. I know there are many states that have been successful with legalizing marijuana. The only caution and concern that I have is that we really do not have a way to test individuals if they're driving behind the seat of a car, they're driving a school bus, things like that, that we can actually test and be sure. And as we all know, marijuana can alter your mood and behavior. So I would seriously look into it, but be very cautious that we do not jump so far ahead that we don't have a plan in place. I want to be sure that anytime we implement a policy, that it's not a knee-jerk reaction, that there is a lot of thought and a lot of planning that's put in place. And I think we can learn from other states as well. So I guess my answer is sort of yes, but I think I'm not quite there yet, because I think we need to be sure that we have the medical component in place first.
Thank you. We have a couple more minutes, and I'd like to ask two more questions. What would you like to see the state government do to help the citizens of West Virginia to recover once the restrictions are lifted from the coronavirus?
Well, you know, the coronavirus is new. We do not know much about this virus. As what we knew about this virus 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago is not what we know about the virus today. So being sure that we protect our citizens and being sure that we follow the advice of those who are the professionals, the healthcare providers. And I think it's very important that every business is taught about infection control. Being sure that we understand why it's important that we wash our hands. And we have been taught that from when we go into the restroom at a restaurant, it says it's mandatory that all employees wash their hands. And I think that's something that we have to do to be sure that we do things in a very safe manner, but knowing that people need to get back to work, that our small businesses need assistance, but we need people being able to provide for their family, make their car payments, make their house payments, and our small businesses, which that's what we are in West Virginia, is small business, is that our government looks at what we can do to help West Virginia, the working people of West Virginia, and the small businesses, and looking at what is it that they need? And, you know, until we assess what they need, we can't determine what that is. But we know we are going to have to support them, and we're going to have to do everything that we can in our power to focus on supporting small businesses and the working people of West Virginia.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, we have about 1 minute. What policy changes or investments are necessary to encourage broader employment within West Virginia, but particularly in Nicholas County?
Okay, I think a problem that we have across our state and across other rural states in America is the access to broadband. We all know that to bring businesses into Nicholas County, bring businesses into the 11th Senatorial District, they have to be able to sell their product. They have to be able to reach the rest of the world. And I would like to see, I know that is a federal issue, but I would like to see our state officials, our government, really hold the federal government and the federal representative to task. They can help make the difference so that we can expand our businesses, that we can be able to sell a product, to be able to get our information out. Just in this time frame of my students now having to learn online, and my son, where I live and many other people in the 11th Senatorial District and in Nicholas County, we don't have internet access. So, you know, we have got to be focused on that. That is going to be the answer to being able to build businesses in Nicholas County and in other counties of the 11th Senatorial District.
All right, well, thank you very much. That ends our question and answer session. So we will give you 3 minutes for a closing statement.
Well, once again, thank you so much for allowing me to be here today. I want to thank the City of Summersville and this awesome camera crew that's here today. And one thing I want to just instill in you is the fact that Denise Campbell doesn't want to run for West Virginia Senate because of Denise Campbell. I want to run for Senate because of you. I want to make your life better. I want to be your voice, and I have a passion to do that. And I just want you to know that I will listen to you. I will not ignore your email. I will not ignore your phone call. And if you disagree with something that I may say or something that I might do, I'm willing to sit down and talk with you about that. And I want you to know that name calling and things like that will be going on during the campaign. The last time I ran for Senate, there were a lot of untruths that were told about me, and I would ask that if you hear name calling that I'm a gun grabber, liberal, I just want you to know that that's not me. I've always voted in favor of your right to bear arms, and you can check my record for that. And I just want to let you know that I care about people and I want to make life better for West Virginia. I'm not about the party, I'm about the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, that is candidate Denise Campbell for West Virginia Senate, District 11. And thank you, Mrs. Campbell, for coming again, and best of luck with your campaign.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you to the City of Summersville and SCTV for hosting Conversation with a Candidate, which hopefully has helped you to meet the candidates, understand their platforms, and gather the information that you need to exercise your right to vote. Some important dates for you to remember. April 24th, county clerks begin mailing absentee ballots to voters who have submitted absentee applications to county clerks. May 19th, voter registration deadline. May 27th through June 6th, early voting in person. June the 3rd, deadline to submit absentee by mail applications. These must be received by the county clerk on this date. June 8th, deadline to hand deliver absentee ballots to the county clerk's office. June the 9th, deadline to mail the absentee ballot to the county clerk. It must be postmarked by June the 9th. And June 9th, primary election day. In-person voting locations may differ from regular polling locations due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So please watch the local newspapers, TV, and social media for locations or contact the county clerk's office. I encourage each of you to exercise your right to vote, either by delivering your absentee ballot to the county clerk's office by June the 8th, postmarking your absentee ballot to the county clerk's office by June 9th, voting in person during the early voting period of May 27th through June 6th, or vote in person at the polling locations on June 9th. Stay safe, and thank you for tuning into Conversation with a Candidate.